Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, staring at the massive alien ship that floated in space before them. The vessel was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was smooth and curved like a giant pearl that glowed with soft blue light. The ship was 3 times larger than their own vessel, and it moved through space without making any sound. "Sir, they're sending us a message," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her position at the communications station. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the nervousness underneath. This was the moment they had all been waiting for and dreading. At the same time, Jake had been chosen to lead this mission because of his calm nature and his ability to think clearly under pressure. The United Earth Council had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. They had trained him in diplomacy, alien psychology, and first contact protocols, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of meeting another intelligent species. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered, straightening his uniform. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the face of an alien being. Jake tried not to show his surprise, but it was difficult. The alien was beautiful in a way that was both familiar and completely foreign. The creature had a humanoid shape, but its skin was pale and seemed to glow with an inner light. Its eyes were large and silver, with no visible pupils. Long, flowing. Hair that looked like liquid starlight framed its face. When it spoke, its voice was melodic and pleasant to hear. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Commander Lyra Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective. We have been observing your species for many years, and we believe it is time for formal contact." Jake stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back in a military stance. "I am Captain Jake Morrison, representing the United Earth Council. We welcome this opportunity to meet your people, Commander Veltar." Lyra tilted her head slightly, studying Jake with those strange silver eyes. "Your species is fascinating, Captain Morrison. We have learned much from your radio transmissions, your art, and your stories. But there is still much we do not understand about humans." "We feel the same way about your people," Jake replied diplomatically. "Perhaps we can learn from each other." "Indeed," Lyra agreed. "I would like to come aboard your vessel to begin formal negotiations. Is this acceptable to you?" Jake felt his heart rate increase. Having an alien being on their ship was both exciting and terrifying, but this was why they were here. "Of course, Commander. We would be honored to have you aboard." Within an hour, a small shuttlecraft had docked with the horizon's edge. Jake waited in the docking bay with Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's xenobiologist, and Chief of Security Ryan Blake. They had no idea what to expect, but they were as ready as they could be. The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Commander Lyra Veltar stepped through. In person, she was even more striking than she had appeared on the view screen. She was tall, probably close to 6 feet, with a graceful way of moving that reminded Jake of a dancer. Her skin seemed to shimmer and change color slightly as she moved, shifting from pale blue to soft gold. "Welcome aboard the Horizon's Edge," Jake said, extending his hand in greeting. Lyra looked at his hand for a moment, then carefully reached out and shook it. Her skin was warm and felt almost electric to the touch. "Thank you for this courtesy," Lyra replied. "Your ship is smaller than ours, but I can sense the dedication of your crew. They are nervous but excited. These emotions are interesting." "Doctor." Carter stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "Commander, can you read our thoughts?" Lyra's skin shifted to a soft purple color. "Not thoughts exactly, but emotions, yes. My people have what you might call telepathic abilities. We can sense the feelings of others, especially when they are strong. It is how we communicate among ourselves." "That must make diplomacy easier," Jake observed. "In some ways, yes, but with humans it is more complex. Your emotions are so varied and intense. They change quickly and sometimes conflict with each other. It is both beautiful and confusing." Jake led the group to the conference room, where they spent the next several hours discussing the basics of first contact. Lyra explained that the Zephyrians had been a spacefaring civilization for over 10,000 years. They had made contact with dozens of other species across the galaxy. But humans were unique in their emotional complexity. Most species we encounter are logical, like us, Lyra explained. They make decisions based on facts and efficiency. But humans seem to make choices based on feelings as much as logic. This is something we find difficult to understand. Emotions aren't weaknesses, Jake said. They help us form bonds, inspire us to create art, and motivate us to protect what we care about. Lyra's skin glowed a warm gold color. Yes, we have observed this. Your art especially interests us. The way humans express feelings through music, painting, and stories is remarkable. We have nothing like it in our culture. As the day continued, Jake found himself drawn to Lyra's curiosity about human nature. She asked countless questions about everything from human relationships to why people kept pets. Her innocent wonder about things that seemed normal to humans was charming. Do all humans form pair bonds? She asked during one of their breaks. Not all, but many do. We call it marriage or partnership. It's when two people decide to share their lives together, and this is based on the emotion you call love? Jake nodded. Among other things, yes. Love, respect, companionship, shared goals. Lyra's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a soft silver. We do not have this concept in our society. We reproduce when necessary for population maintenance, but we do not form emotional attachments. Our leaders believe such bonds make us weak and inefficient. That seems lonely, Jake said without thinking. Lonely? Lyra repeated the word as if testing how it sounded. I am not familiar with this concept. Jake realized he had touched on something important. It means feeling alone, even when surrounded by others. Feeling like no one truly understands you or cares about you as an individual. For a moment, Lyra's skin went completely still, no longer shifting colors. I believe I may have experienced this feeling, though I did not know what to call it. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the bridge. Another Zephyrian ship had arrived, and they were requesting immediate communication with Commander Veltar. I must go, Lyra said, standing quickly. But I would like to continue our discussions tomorrow, if possible. Of course, Jake agreed. We have much more to learn from each other. As Lyra prepared to leave, she paused at the airlock. Captain Morrison, may I ask you something? Certainly. When you spoke of loneliness, your emotions became very strong. Have you experienced this feeling often? Jake considered the question carefully. Sometimes. Command can be isolating. You have to make difficult decisions that affect everyone, and you can't always share the burden with others. Lyra's skin glowed with warm amber tones. I think I understand. Thank you for your honesty. After she left, Jake stood in the empty docking bay, thinking about their conversation. There was something about Lyra that intrigued him beyond mere diplomatic interest. She seemed genuinely curious about human nature, not just as a scientist studying a specimen, but as someone who might be missing something important in her own life. Dr. Carter approached him as he stood there. Interesting first day, Captain. Indeed, Jake replied. I have a feeling this is going to be more complicated than we expected. In what way? Jake watched through the viewport as Lyra's shuttle returned to the Zephyrian ship. I think she's starting to question her own people's way of life. And I'm not sure that's going to make the negotiations any easier. Little did Jake know that. His observation would prove to be more accurate than he could have imagined. The seeds of change had already been planted, and they would grow into something that would transform both species forever. The next morning, Jake was reviewing diplomatic reports when Lieutenant Brooks announced that Commander Veltar was requesting permission to return to the ship. Jake felt a strange excitement that he tried to push down. This was supposed to be a professional diplomatic mission, not a personal one. Permission granted, he said, straightening his uniform. Have her escorted to conference room 2. When Jake arrived at the conference room, he found Lyra already there, studying a small painting that hung on the wall. It was a simple landscape of Earth, showing mountains and a lake during sunset. Her skin was glowing with soft orange and pink colors that seemed to match the colors in the painting. Good morning, Commander, Jake said as he entered. Lyra turned to face him. her skin shifting to warm gold tones. "Good morning, Captain Morrison. I hope you do not mind that I arrived early. I wanted to examine this image more closely." "Not at all. Do you like it?" "It is beautiful, but I do not understand its purpose. It serves no functional role, yet someone spent time creating it. Why?" Jake moved to stand beside her, looking at the familiar painting. The artist painted it because the scene made him feel something. Maybe peace or happiness or just a connection to nature. He wanted to capture that feeling and share it with others. So humans create art to communicate emotions? Among other things, yes. Art can tell stories, preserve memories, or simply make people feel good when they look at it. Lyra's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a soft blue. "We have records and documentation, but nothing like this. We do not create things for emotional purposes." "What do you create?" "Tools, buildings, ships. Things that serve logical purposes. Our society values efficiency above all else." Jake felt a sadness for her that he couldn't quite explain. "But doesn't that make life boring?" "Boring?" Lyra tested the word, another emotion I am not familiar with. "It means uninteresting, dull. When every day is the same and nothing excites you or makes you happy." For a moment, Lyra's skin went completely still. I think I may have felt this too, though I did not know what to call it." They spent the morning discussing art and culture. Jake showed her photos of Earth, explaining different types of human creativity. He showed her music, which fascinated her completely. When he played a piece of classical music, her skin began to glow in patterns that seemed to match the rhythm. "The sound creates physical responses in me," she said, wonder in her voice. "I can feel it in my mind, like colors and shapes moving. That's exactly what music is supposed to do. It's meant to create feelings and images in your mind." "But why? Do humans need these feelings?" "They seem to cause as much pain as pleasure." Jake thought about this carefully. "Because the pain makes the pleasure more meaningful. If you never felt sad, you wouldn't appreciate happiness. If you never felt fear, you wouldn't value courage." "This is very complex," Lyra said, her skin shifting to deep purple. "Our leaders teach us that emotions are primitive and dangerous. They say that logical thinking is superior." "Maybe both have their place," Jake suggested. "Logic helps us solve problems and make good decisions. But emotions help us understand why those problems matter in the first place." Over the next several days, Jake and Lyra spent more time together. Their formal diplomatic meetings became longer and more personal. Lyra was eager to learn about human culture, and Jake found himself enjoying her endless curiosity. Dr. Carter often joined their discussions, fascinated by the biological aspects of Zephyrian telepathy. "Can you control what emotions you sense?" she asked during one session. "To some degree," Lyra replied. "But strong emotions are difficult to ignore. Captain Morrison's emotions are particularly intense." Jake felt his face grow warm. "I hope." "That's not a problem. Not a problem, no. But it is interesting. Your emotions seem to layer on top of each other. You can feel multiple things at once, sometimes contradictory feelings." "Can you give an example?" Dr. Carter asked, her scientific mind clearly engaged. Lyra's skin shifted to a soft pink color as she looked at Jake. "Right now, Captain Morrison feels curious about what I will say, but also embarrassed that we are discussing his emotions. He is interested in our conversation, but also worried about maintaining professional boundaries. And underneath all of that, there is something else, something warmer." Jake cleared his throat, definitely feeling embarrassed now. "I think that's enough emotional analysis for today." But Lyra's innocent observation had revealed something that Jake was trying to ignore. He was developing feelings for her that went beyond professional interest. He found himself looking forward to their meetings, paying attention to the way her skin changed colors, and feeling protective of her when she talked about her sterile, emotionless society. Dr. Carter noticed too. After Lyra left that day, she stayed behind to talk with Jake. "Captain, I need to discuss something with you. If it's about the emotional readings, I'm already aware of the situation. Are you?" "Because from a scientific perspective, What's happening between you and Commander Veltar is fascinating but potentially dangerous. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. Explain. She's experiencing emotions for the first time in her life. Her people have suppressed these feelings for thousands of years, but contact with humans is awakening them. She's like a child learning to walk, but with the emotional complexity of an adult. And you think I'm influencing her? I think you're awakening something in her that her people might not appreciate, and I think she's affecting you too. Jake knew Dr. Carter was right. He was falling for Lyra, which was not only professionally inappropriate but also potentially dangerous for the diplomatic mission. But he couldn't stop himself from caring about her. The next day, Lyra arrived earlier than usual. She seemed different, more subdued. Her skin was a pale gray color that Jake had never seen before. Is everything all right? He asked. I spoke with my superiors last night about our cultural exchanges. They are concerned about the changes they observe in me. What kind of changes? They say my emotional responses have become stronger and more varied. They can sense it through our telepathic network. Some of them believe I am becoming infected by human emotions. Jake felt a flash of anger. Infected? As if emotions were a disease? That is how they view it. They say that emotions make beings weak and unpredictable. They believe that logical thinking is the only path to advancement. But what do you think? Lyra's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a soft gold. I think I do not want to go back to the way I was before. When I was with my people, I felt empty inside, though I did not know what to call that feeling. Now I understand it was loneliness. Learning about emotions doesn't make you weak, Lyra. It makes you more complete. But my people will not understand. They may forbid me from continuing these meetings. Jake felt his heart sink. The thought of not seeing Lyra again was more painful than he expected. Would you obey such an order? I do not know. For the first time in my life, I am considering disobeying my superiors. Is this what you call rebellion? It's called thinking for yourself. They spent the rest of the day discussing human concepts of individuality and freedom. Lyra was particularly interested in the idea that humans could choose their own paths in life, even if others disagreed with their choices. On my world, we are assigned roles based on our abilities and the needs of society. We do not choose our occupations, our living spaces, or our associations. That sounds lonely, Jake said. It is, but I did not know it until I met you and your people. Now I understand what I have been missing. As their conversation continued, Jake noticed that Lyra's skin was glowing brighter than usual. The colors seemed more vivid, more alive. When she laughed at one of his stories, her entire body seemed to shimmer with golden light. Lyra, has anyone ever told you that you're beautiful when you laugh? The moment the words left his mouth, Jake realized he had crossed a line. This was no longer a professional diplomatic exchange. But Lyra's reaction surprised him. Her skin erupted in colors he had never seen before, deep reds and purples, mixed with brilliant golds and silvers. Beautiful? I do not understand this word in relation to myself. It means pleasing to look at, attractive. But more than that, it means that seeing you happy makes me happy too. Lyra stared at him with those silver eyes, her skin continuing to shift through amazing colors. Captain Morrison ... Jake? I think I'm beginning to understand why humans create art and music. It is to capture feelings like this, is it not? Yes, Jake said softly, exactly like this. For a moment they stood in silence, both aware that something important had just happened between them. Then Lyra's communicator chimed, breaking the spell. I must return to my ship, she said reluctantly. But I would like to continue our discussions tomorrow. So would I? As she prepared to leave, Lyra paused at the door. Jake, what you said about beauty. Does this mean you find me attractive? Jake's heart pounded as he realized the significance of the question. Yes, Lyra, I do. Her skin glowed with warm amber light as she smiled. Then I believe I am beginning to understand another human emotion. I find you attractive too. After she left, Jake stood alone in the conference room, knowing that everything had changed. They had moved beyond diplomacy into something much more personal and potentially dangerous. 3 weeks had passed since that first moment of mutual attraction, and Jake found himself thinking about Lyra constantly. Their daily meetings had become the highlight of his existence, and he could tell that she felt the same way. Her skin now showed permanent flecks of gold whenever she was around him, and her telepathic abilities seemed to resonate with his emotions in ways that surprised both of them. Dr. Carter had become increasingly concerned about their growing connection. She had pulled Jake aside several times to remind him of the diplomatic implications, but Jake found it harder and harder to maintain professional distance. Lyra was not just an alien diplomat anymore. She was becoming someone he cared about deeply. The situation became more complicated when other crew members began to notice the change in their captain. Chief Security Officer Ryan Blake had mentioned that Jake seemed distracted during briefings. Lieutenant Brooks had commented that the captain spent an unusual amount of time preparing for meetings with the Zephyrian commander, but Jake couldn't help himself. Lyra's curiosity about human emotions and culture had awakened something in him that he thought he had buried long ago. She asked questions that made him think about his own life in new ways. She listened to his stories with genuine interest, and her innocent wonder about simple human experiences made everything seem fresh and meaningful again. Today was different, though. When Lyra arrived for their meeting, her skin was a deep purple, color that Jake had learned meant she was troubled or uncertain. She seemed nervous, fidgeting with her hands and avoiding his eyes. "Is everything all right?" Jake asked as they walked to the observation deck, a new location they had started using for their more personal conversations. "I have been thinking about our discussions," Lyra said carefully. "About emotions and human relationships. What about them?" "I have been studying your people's concept of love. It is perhaps the most complex emotion in your species, and the one that puzzles me most." Jake felt his heart rate increase. Love was not a topic they had discussed directly, though it had been implied in many of their conversations. "What would you like to know about it?" They reached the observation deck, where large windows showed the starfield outside. Lyra moved to stand near the glass, her skin shifting to deeper shades of purple and blue. "From your literature and your stories, love seems to be the most powerful force in human existence. It drives people to great acts of courage and sacrifice. It inspires your art and your music. It can bring great happiness, but also terrible pain." "That's true," Jake agreed, moving to stand beside her. "But I do not understand how it works. How do humans know when they are experiencing this emotion? How do they know when another person shares it?" Jake looked out at the stars, trying to find the right words. "It's different for everyone. Sometimes it starts slowly, growing from friendship and respect. Sometimes it happens suddenly, like lightning. But when it's real, you know it because the other person becomes essential to your happiness." "Essential?" "You can't imagine your life without them. Their well-being becomes as important as your own. You want to protect them, to make them happy, to share everything with them." Lyra's skin shifted to a soft silver color. "And this is considered normal among humans?" "It's considered one of the most important experiences a person can have, even though it makes you vulnerable, even though it can cause pain." Jake turned to look at her, seeing the confusion and longing in her silver eyes. "The vulnerability is part of what makes it meaningful. When you love someone, you trust them with your heart, knowing they could hurt you. But when they don't hurt you, when they protect that trust, it creates something beautiful." "I think I am beginning to understand," Lyra said softly. "But there is something else I must ask you." "What?" Lyra turned to face him fully, her skin beginning to shift through colors more rapidly than he had ever seen. "I have been experiencing new sensations since we began our meetings. My telepathic abilities become erratic around you. I find myself thinking about you during meditation. I feel a warmth in my chest when I see you, and a coldness when you are not here." Jake's breath caught in his throat. He knew what she was describing, but he didn't dare assume what it meant. "I have compared these feelings to your descriptions of human emotions," she continued, "and I believe what I am experiencing might be what you call love. But I need to know something before I can understand what this means." "What do you need to know?" Lyra's skin was now cycling through colors so quickly that it looked like a rainbow in constant motion. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I have studied your human emotions extensively, but I must know the truth. Do you love me? The question hung in the air between them like a live wire. Jake felt his heart pounding so hard he was sure she could hear it. This was the moment he had been both hoping for and dreading. He could lie, maintain professional distance, and potentially save the diplomatic mission. Or he could tell the truth and risk everything. Looking into her silver eyes, seeing the vulnerability and hope there, Jake knew he couldn't lie to her. But he also realized that a simple yes or no answer wouldn't be enough. She deserved to understand what love really meant to humans, especially since her people had no concept of it. Lyra, he said, taking her hands in his. Her skin was warm and seemed to pulse with energy. Love isn't just a feeling to humans. It's a choice we make every day. Her skin shifted to a deep blue. The color he had learned meant she was concentrating intently. I could tell you that yes, I love you, and that would be true. But that's not the whole answer. Love is about choosing to put someone else's happiness alongside your own. It's about deciding that their dreams matter as much as yours. It's about wanting to grow together, to face challenges together, to become better people because of each other. Lyra's skin was now showing colors he had never seen before, swirling patterns of gold and silver mixed with deep purples and blues. I don't love you despite the fact that you're different from me, Jake continued. I love you because of who you are, because you make me see the universe through new eyes, because your curiosity about life makes me appreciate things I had forgotten. We're beautiful, because your honesty and innocence remind me of what's good in the world. But I am not human, Lyra said, her voice trembling. I do not even understand emotions the way you do. That doesn't matter. Love isn't about being the same. It's about choosing to bridge the differences. It's about wanting to learn from each other and grow together. Jake paused, looking deeply into her eyes. So yes, Lyra, I love you. Not just as a diplomat, not just as a friend, but as someone I want to spend my life with. Someone whose happiness has become essential to my own. The moment Jake finished speaking, Lyra's skin erupted in the most beautiful display of colors he had ever seen. Waves of gold, silver, and warm amber cascaded across her body like liquid light. Her eyes, normally silver, now seemed to glow with an inner fire. I understand now, she whispered. This feeling I have been experiencing, it is love. I love you too, Jake Morrison. I love the way you see beauty in simple things. I love how you make me want to be more than what my people expect me to be. I love the way you make me feel alive. Without thinking, Jake reached up and touched her face. Gently. Her skin was warm and seemed to pulse with light under his fingers. What happens now? I do not know, Lyra admitted. My people will not understand this. They will see it as a betrayal of our logical principles. But I cannot go back to the way I was before. I do not want to live without emotions anymore. I do not want to live without you. Jake felt a mixture of joy and concern. He knew that their admission of love would create complications beyond anything they had faced so far. But looking at Lyra's glowing skin and seeing the happiness in her eyes, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. We'll figure it out, he said softly. Love finds a way. Lyra smiled, and her skin glowed even brighter. Is this what humans call hope? Yes, Jake replied. This is hope. As they stood together in the observation deck, watching the stars stream past, both of them knew that their lives had changed forever. The alien woman who had asked about love had discovered that it was not just an emotion to be understood, but a force that could transform everything it touched. The question had been answered, but their journey was just beginning. The morning after Jake and Lyra had confessed their love, everything felt different aboard the Horizon's Edge. Jake woke up with a lightness in his chest that he hadn't felt in years, but also with a growing worry about what their relationship would mean for the mission. He knew that word would spread quickly among both crews, and he was right. Dr. Carter was waiting for him in his ready room when he arrived for his morning briefing. Her expression was serious, and Jake could tell she had something important to discuss. Captain, we need to talk about what happened yesterday. How do you know something happened yesterday? Because half the crew is talking about how you and Commander Veltar were seen holding hands on the observation deck. And because her emotional readings have changed dramatically. Whatever happened between you two, it's created ripples throughout both ships. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. It's complicated, Lisa. I'm sure it is. But you need to understand the consequences of what you're doing. This isn't just about your personal feelings anymore. The entire diplomatic mission could be at risk. Before Jake could respond, Lieutenant Brooks called from the bridge. Captain, we're receiving an urgent message from the Zephyrian ship. They're requesting immediate communication with you. Jake felt his stomach drop. This was what he had been afraid of. Put it through to my ready room. The view screen activated, showing not Lyra, but an older Zephyrian male with pale blue skin and cold, silver eyes. His entire presence radiated authority and disapproval. Captain Morrison, I am High Counselor Keth Morin of the Zephyrian Collective. I have come to investigate disturbing reports about Commander Veltar's condition. What kind of condition? Jake asked, though he suspected he already knew. Our telepathic network has detected severe emotional disturbances emanating from the commander. She appears to have been infected with primitive emotional responses that are disrupting our entire delegation. This cannot be allowed to continue. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. With respect, Counselor, emotions are not an infection. They're a natural part of who we are as humans. Perhaps for your species, but not for ours. We evolved beyond such base impulses thousands of years ago. Commander Veltar's current state is evidence of regression, not progress. Have you spoken with her about this? I have. She has admitted to experiencing what you humans call love. This is completely unacceptable for a member of our diplomatic corps. I am here to correct this situation. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. Dr. Carter looked at him with concern. This is what I was afraid of, she said. The Zephyrians see Lyra's emotional development as a problem to be solved, not a natural evolution. They can't just force her to stop feeling, Jake said. That's not how emotions work. They don't understand that. To them, emotions are a malfunction that needs to be repaired. An hour later, Lyra arrived for their scheduled meeting. But she was not alone. High Counselor Keth Morin accompanied her, along with two other Zephyrian officials. Jake could see immediately that something was wrong. Lyra's skin was a dull gray color, and her usual vibrant energy seemed dampened. Captain Morrison, Keth Morin said formally. We need to discuss the situation that has developed between you and Commander Veltar. What situation is that? Do not pretend ignorance. Commander Veltar has been compromised by exposure to human emotions. Her ability to serve as a diplomatic representative has been severely impaired. Jake looked at Lyra, who was staring at the floor. When she finally looked up, he could see pain in her silver eyes. Is this true, Lyra? Do you feel that your emotions have impaired your judgment? Before she could answer, Keth Morin spoke for her. It does not matter what she feels. What matters is that she can no longer perform her duties effectively. She will be returning to our ship immediately, and all personal contact between the two of you will cease. You can't do that, Jake said, standing up. She's an adult who can make her own decisions. In human society, perhaps? But Commander, Veltar is Zephyrian, and she is bound by our laws and customs. She will undergo treatment to remove these emotional disturbances, and then she will resume her duties. Jake felt his heart breaking as he looked at Lyra. Her skin was now almost completely colorless, as if the life was draining out of her. Lyra, what do you want? He asked gently. For the first time since entering the room, Lyra spoke. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I want to stay with you, Jake, but my people say that what I am feeling is wrong, that it will destroy me and harm our mission. They're wrong, Jake said firmly. Your emotions don't make you weak. They make you more complete, more alive. Keth Morin Skin shifted to a cold blue color. Captain Morrison, you are speaking about things you do not understand. Emotions are chaotic and destructive. They lead to poor decisions and unnecessary conflict. Our society has thrived for millennia without them. But have you lived? Jake challenged. Have you created anything beautiful? Have you ever felt the joy of discovery or the satisfaction of helping someone you care about? We have achieved perfect logical efficiency, at the cost of everything that makes life worth living. The argument continued for over an hour with neither side willing to compromise. Kethmorin insisted that Lyra return to the Zephyrian ship for treatment, while Jake argued that she should be free to choose her own path. Throughout the discussion, Lyra remained silent, her skin growing paler and more lifeless. Finally, Dr. Carter interrupted the argument with urgent news. Captain, I'm detecting unusual readings from the Zephyrian ship. It appears that Lyra's emotional awakening is affecting other members of their crew through their telepathic network. Kethmorin's expression grew even more severe. This confirms our worst fears. The emotional contamination is spreading. We must isolate Commander Veltar immediately. Wait, Jake said. What exactly is happening on your ship? Dr. Carter consulted her readings. Several Zephyrians are showing signs of emotional responses. Some appear to be experiencing curiosity about human culture. Others seem to be questioning their society's restrictions on emotions. This is a disaster, Kethmorin said. If emotions spread through our population, it could destroy our entire civilization. Or it could make your civilization better, Jake suggested. Maybe your people are ready to experience the full range of what life has to offer. Impossible. We will not allow our society to regress to primitive emotional states. But even as Kethmorin spoke, reports were coming in from both ships. Some of the Zephyrian crew members were requesting permission to visit the human ship. They wanted to learn about art, music, and human relationships. A few had even begun to show color changes in their skin, indicating emotional responses. On the human ship, the crew was divided about the situation. Some supported their captain's relationship with Lyra, admiring his courage and following his heart. Others worried that personal feelings were compromising the mission and potentially endangering both species. Chief Security Officer Ryan Blake approached Jake privately after the meeting. Captain, I need to ask you something as a friend. You prepared for the consequences of this relationship? What do you mean? I mean that the Zephyrians might decide that humans are too dangerous to have contact with. They might end diplomatic relations entirely, or worse, they might see us as a threat to be eliminated. Jake hadn't considered this possibility, but he realized Ryan was right. If the Zephyrians truly believed that human emotions were dangerous, they might decide that the only solution was to remove humans from the equation entirely. What would you do in my position? Jake asked. I don't know, Ryan admitted. But I do know that sometimes love requires sacrifice. The question is, what? Are you willing to sacrifice, and what are you willing to fight for? That evening, Jake stood alone on the observation deck where he and Lyra had confessed their love. The stars looked the same, but everything else had changed. He knew that decisions would have to be made soon, and those decisions would affect not just him and Lyra, but potentially both of their species. As he stood there, he thought about what love really meant. Was it selfish to pursue his feelings for Lyra if it put others at risk? Or was love worth fighting for, even against impossible odds? He didn't have answers yet, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't give up on Lyra, and he couldn't let her people force her back into an emotionless existence. Somehow, he had to find a way to show the Zephyrians that emotions weren't a weakness to be eliminated, but a strength to be embraced. The fate of two species might depend on his ability to prove that love was not just a human weakness, but a universal force that could bring out the best in any intelligent being. Tomorrow, he would have to make choices that would change everything. But tonight, he allowed himself to hope that love would find a way to triumph over fear and misunderstanding. Jake spent the night thinking about everything that had happened. By morning, he had made a decision that surprised even himself. Instead of trying to negotiate privately with High Counselor Kethmorin, He requested permission to address the entire Zephyrian High Council directly. Dr. Carter thought he had lost his mind. Jake, you're risking everything. If you say the wrong thing, they might see humans as a threat to their entire civilization. I'm going to tell them the truth about love, Jake replied calmly. Not as a weakness to be ashamed of, but as humanity's greatest strength. And if they don't believe you, then at least I'll have tried. I won't let Lyra be forced back into an emotionless existence without fighting for her. 3 hours later, Jake stood before the assembled Zephyrian High Council via video communication. 20 alien leaders sat in a semicircle, their pale skin showing no emotion, their silver eyes cold and judging. High Counselor Keth Moran sat in the center, his expression stern and disapproving. Lyra was also present, standing to one side with 2 guards. Her skin was still that lifeless gray color, and Jake could see the sadness in her eyes. But when she saw him on the screen, a tiny flicker of gold appeared in her skin, quickly suppressed but not entirely hidden. Captain Morrison, Keth Moran began, you have requested this audience to discuss the emotional contamination that has affected Commander Veltar and is now spreading through our crew. We assume you wish to apologize for your role in this situation? No, Jake said simply. I'm here to tell you why you're wrong about emotions. A murmur went through the council chamber. Several of the Zephyrian leaders showed brief flickers of color in their skin, indicating surprise or curiosity. You believe that emotions make beings weak and inefficient, Jake continued. But you're looking at only part of the picture. Yes. Emotions can cause pain and lead to poor decisions, but they also drive us to achieve things that pure logic never could. Explain, said one of the council members, her skin showing a faint blue tinge of interest. Love doesn't make humans weak. It makes us capable of incredible strength. A parent will risk their life to save their child, not because it's logical, but because love makes that child's safety more important than their own. A person will work for years to build something beautiful, not for profit, but because love of creation drives them to excel. Jake paused, looking directly at Lyra. Love is what drove humans to reach for the stars. We didn't explore space just for resources or territory. We did it because we loved the idea of discovery, because we wanted to find others to share the universe with. These are merely chemical reactions that cloud judgment, Keth Moran said dismissively. Are they? Then explain to me how humans have created art that lasts for thousands of years. Explain how we've built civilizations that value individual freedom alongside collective good. Explain how we've learned to work together despite our differences. Jake took a deep breath and made his most daring argument yet. You say that emotions are primitive, but I think you have it backwards. The ability to feel emotions while still thinking logically isn't a step backward in evolution. It's a step forward. Impossible, Keth Moran declared. Logic and emotion are incompatible. No, they're complementary. Logic tells us how to solve problems. Emotion tells us which problems are worth solving. Logic helps us find the most efficient path. Emotion gives us the motivation to take that path even when it's difficult. Jake looked around the council chamber, noting that several members were now showing definite color changes in their skin. Some appeared curious, others troubled, but none remained completely unchanged. Look at your own people right now, Jake said. You claim that Commander Veltar's emotions are contaminating them, but what if she's actually awakening something? That was always there? What if your people haven't eliminated emotions but simply suppressed them? That is absurd, Keth Moran said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Then why are some of your crew members asking to visit our ship? Why are they interested in our art and music? Why are they questioning your restrictions on emotions? One of the younger council members spoke up, her skin showing bright yellow patterns. High Counselor, perhaps we should consider the captains. Words. There have been developments among our population that suggest emotions may not be as foreign to us as we believed. Keth Moran's skin flashed with red anger. Counselor Zara, you will not speak in favor of this emotional regression. But what if it is not regression? Zara replied boldly. What if it is growth? Jake seized the moment. Let me ask you something, Counselor Zara. When you look at the stars, don't you feel something? Wonder, perhaps? Curiosity about what might be out there? Zara's skin brightened with golden hues. Yes, I have always felt something when looking at the stars. I thought it was simply intellectual interest, but now I wonder if it might be more. That's emotion, Jake said gently. Wonder, curiosity, the desire to explore and discover. These feelings aren't weaknesses. They're what drive intelligent beings to grow and learn. Enough. Kethmorin shouted, his skin now showing dark red patterns of fury. You are trying to poison our minds with your primitive thinking. I'm trying to show you that love and logic can coexist, Jake replied calmly. Commander Veltar hasn't lost her intelligence or her ability to think clearly. She's gained the ability to feel joy, wonder, and yes, love. She's become more than she was before, not less. Jake turned his attention directly to Lyra. Lyra, you've experienced both ways of living. Tell your people what you've learned. For a long moment, Lyra remained silent. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. As she did, color began to return to her skin, starting as faint gold flecks and gradually brightening. High Counselor, she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. I have lived for 200 years without emotions and 3 weeks with them. In those 3 weeks I have felt more alive than in all my previous years combined. You have been compromised, Kethmorin said coldly. No, Lyra replied, her skin now glowing with warm golden light. I have been completed. Before I met Captain Morrison and his crew, I performed my duties efficiently, but I felt empty inside. I thought that emptiness was normal, that it was the price of logical thinking. But it wasn't normal, it was loneliness. She turned to address the entire council. I have learned that emotions do not make us weak, they make us whole. When I feel love for Captain Morrison, it does not cloud my judgment, it clarifies it. It makes me want to be the best version of myself. It makes me want to build bridges between our peoples instead of walls. Several council members were now showing bright colors, their suppressed emotions finally surfacing. Even some who tried to remain impassive showed subtle shifts in their skin tone. Furthermore, Lyra continued, our telepathic abilities are not being disrupted by emotions. They are being enhanced. I can sense the feelings of the human crew in ways I never could before. I understand them better because I can feel what they feel. This is madness, Kethmorin declared, but his voice was losing authority as more council members began to show emotional responses. Jake decided to make his final argument. High Counselor, I'm not asking you to abandon logic. I'm asking you to embrace both logic and emotion. Humans have learned to use both, and it has made us stronger, not weaker. We've created beauty, achieved impossible things, and built lasting bonds across the galaxy. He paused, looking around the chamber at the increasingly colorful assembly. Your people are already changing. You can fight it and risk civil conflict, or you can guide it and help your civilization grow into something greater than it ever was before. Counselor Zara stood up, her skin now showing brilliant patterns of gold and blue. High Counselor, I believe Captain Morrison is right. Perhaps it is time for our people to evolve again. One by one, other council members began to stand, their skin showing various colors as they experienced emotions for the first time in generations. Only Kethmorin and a few of the oldest members remained seated, their skin still pale and lifeless, finally. Even Kethmorin seemed to realize that the tide had turned. His skin flickered briefly with purple uncertainty before returning to pale gray. Very well, he said heavily. It appears that change is inevitable, but this will be done carefully with proper guidance and study. Agreed, Jake said. We propose a cultural exchange program. Some of your people can live among humans to learn about emotions, while some humans can learn your mental disciplines. Together we can find a balance between logic and feeling. Counselor Zara smiled, and her skin glowed with warm happiness. I volunteer to be part of this exchange. Several other council members voiced their agreement. Even those who remained uncertain seemed curious about the possibilities. And Commander Veltar? Jake asked, Kethmorin looked at Lyra, whose skin was now radiating brilliant golden light. Commander Veltar will serve as our first cultural ambassador. She will work with both our peoples to guide this transition. Lyra's skin erupted in the most beautiful display of colors Jake had ever seen. Thank you, High Counselor. I will not disappoint you. Months later, Jake and Lyra stood together on the observation deck of a new joint human-Zephyrian research station. Around them, members of both species worked together, learning from each other and growing in ways neither had imagined possible.